My name is Saurabh Bajaj. I have had experience of almost 2 decades. I was with Mondelez for almost 10 years, Britannia for 5, a couple of years with Diageo, and then I've been with Vodafone Idea for the last 2 years as the executive vice president for prepaid marketing. As I've been going through this journey over the last 2 decades, I felt that simply delivering my business and ambition results was not enough. There was more that I had to do, right? And what is that more that I wanted to do is where I have shared in this presentation how I've sort of uncovered my own personal leadership journey of finding what we call a true north, right? And hence, what is the kind of a leader that I am? And let this session hopefully guide you on how you can find yours. The things that we are going to cover in this session is one, how do you discover your purpose, right? How do you identify your core values, your passions, right? Which help you articulate your personal purpose. And you know what? Oftentimes, we do not articulate things, right? We think that we know it, but we don't put it down. And believe you me, much like how we do it at school, right? कि मुझे आंसर साले मालूम थे लेकिन मैं लिख नहीं पाया. It's finally about penning it down, because once you have that powerful articulation, that's what really drives you. That's what reminds you, right? That's what helps you deliver on what you really believe in. And hence, the journey of discovering your purpose is also about visualizing your journey. We have all read books like The Secret, where we talk about manifestation, right? But it's far simpler than that. It's not any magic. It's not what Shah Rukh Khan talked about, kainat will help out, right? Sure, the universe does conspire, but finally, you are at the driver's seat. Now, as you build your leadership journey, you also need to understand what other people around you are seeking from you. And those could be your employees, they could be your fans on LinkedIn, they could be your boss, people around you. And understanding others' needs is core to connecting with people, motivating them, and inspiring them. Finally, it's about integrating your own personality. Finally, who you are. And a personal branding journey is not about being somebody else or portraying yourself as somebody else. It's finally about finding your own true north, bringing your whole personality to work, your whole self. And how do you reveal your whole self? How do you even build time for your whole self, right? Because one of the questions I'm tired of answering is, where did you find the time for this? Right. And that is always the one question, right, which I always feel very surprised with, saying that why is it the people are not able to find time for everything that they wish to do, right? And that is what, for me, gets revealed as your purpose becomes clear. Now, as you reflect on your own purpose, right, or your own journey, you would realize that you've had your ups and downs, right? And what I also find very, very interesting, that these ups and downs are not uncommon. Okay, these ups and downs are very, very common, because this, in fact, is what management literature talks about an ideal journey, right? Now, most leaders' journeys or heroes' journey, this is what very interestingly what management literature also calls out, usually follows this trajectory. Initially, so there is leadership development on one side and age on the other, right? As you go, it's not a linear path. It's not that you grow every day, right? You have your ups and downs. So even for me, when I introspect on my own journey, it is something like this, right? Where you have this phase one, which is where you are sort of preparing for leadership, right? Where your character formation happens. You rub against the world, you have your ups and downs, you deliver some wins, you deliver some losses, right? Then you step up. You are able to then take up the track to lead. There is these intense conversations. And I remember this conversation with my bosses that, you know what, I think you're a doer. You will not be able to let go, is what a boss once told me. Or if you let go, you will not be able to hold all the balls. So those kind of questions come in and you get success, right? So when you step up to lead, you see success. That success can sometimes turn into arrogance. And that crucible, which is mentioned there, happened to me as well. Somewhere midway through your journey, you have this sharp drop. You feel that the world has ended. You feel that, oh my God, will I ever recover from this? Am I ever going to claw my way back? Then when you recover, that's when you start hitting this peak leadership potential, right? Where you start really growing very fast, you start moving, you start delivering. And that's when, and probably an ikigai moment, right? Or a introspection moment hits in, saying that, am I doing the right thing? Which direction am I going? Right? What kind of leader exactly I am? Right? And then you could have a lull moment. You can have the time where I'm delivering, I'm performing, I'm giving back a lot to, say, life, society, or my job itself. I'm doing well at work, but am I feeling fully satisfied? Uh, am I fully feeling satisfied? Am I feeling that I'm delivering what I need to deliver? And that really is where that gap is. That the gap is not performance, right? It is really a lack of satisfaction, maybe, right? It's a feeling of a little bit of emptiness, right? And that feeling of emptiness is where a lot of leaders start then discovering what their personal purpose or personal branding is all about. Personal branding. While, yeah, you can start personal branding from the way you start your work itself, but eventually personal branding is, to some degree, is about giving back, right? And let me share with you in my journey what I really mean by this. I've had a very colorful journey, and I'm really grateful for it, right? It's been a lot of fun, and of course I'm grateful for the privilege of having worked in some very good organizations. But before I get into my professional journey, let's take one step back. Let's get into my college or school. In school, I wanted to become a researcher in physics. I mean, I didn't want to become a marketeer. Who even knows what a marketeer is when you are in college, right? So I wanted to become a researcher in physics. I, however, cleared Delhi College of Engineering, and I hated it. And I was like, oh God, where have I got stuck? Applied sciences is called engineering, and pure sciences is a very different ball game. It's not one and the same thing. And that was a shock for me because, all my life I was dreaming of Big Bang, black holes. I got a 97 in my class 12 physics, and I felt I'll be doing something very different. And I entered this engineering college, and I didn't know what I liked. I didn't like C++ because every guy in civil engineering was getting a job in TCS in 04. I didn't like civil engineering because every person I met in civil engineering either worked in UPSC or IAS or IPS, and again, places I didn't want to work. Luckily, I found MBA, I found marketing, I fell in love with it, and luckily my sort of journey then started in earnest. So I joined IIM Indore. And when in IIM Indore itself, I then realized that, pure marketing is what I'm going to be keen to do. And if I want to do marketing, I'm not going to repeat my mistake again. I'm not going to think particle physics and start taking up a course in civil engineering. If I'm thinking marketing, I need to do a great job in marketing, right? And how will I do marketing? I did some Google search. I spoke to my seniors, and I realized that marketing is all about sales. Unless you're a great salesperson, unlikely you'll be a great marketer. So first 3-4 years of my life with Wipro Consumer Care and then with Mondelez, I did 4 years as an area sales manager, first in Uttaranchal and then in Vijayawada. From there, I got my break. I moved into marketing. I was a brand manager. My boss realized that I've got a degree of spunk. And why doesn't he give me celebrations? And Cadbury Celebrations was a brand doing very poorly at that point in time. And I was grateful to have been at a time when we turned around the brand. We doubled the brand's business in 4 years' time. Not only did we grow the brand at CAGR of 25%, but we also shifted our bottom line from minus 5% operating income to plus 12%. At around the age of 26, 27, somewhere in my, maybe 28, somewhere in my marketing journey, I said, life cannot be a series of happy accidents. There has to be method to this madness. I cannot keep moving around one role to another thinking, maybe I'll get lucky. It cannot work like that, right? And you can get lucky once, right? What about every time? So I said, let me take charge of my life. Let me take charge of the person I will be. And I will do it the way I do my job, right? I mean, all of us, whichever facet of business you are, if somebody says, make a brand plan for your brand for the next 10 years, or make a business plan for your entrepreneurship for the next 20 years, or build a sales outlook for your territory for the next 3 years, you'll happily do it because it's a job. But very few of us have the confidence and the courage to put down a goal for ourselves for the next 15 years. Right. And that is what I did. So around 26, 27, somewhere, in this 010 to 012 era, somewhere around here, I decided to put a goal. saying that who will I be? And to set a goal, whether it's for your brand or for yourself, the key thing that you do is you need to ask yourself, who can you be? What can you be like, right? What is that goal going to look like? And the best way to find a goal is to Google people up, search people up, right? So I started searching people maybe on LinkedIn, right? Or whatever was the equivalent forum available then, saying that how do people become leaders in marketing? And when I did that research, I realized people become CMOs at 30, people become CMOs at 40. People who become CMOs at 30 might become CMOs of a startup, a financial services firm, a real estate company, and then they always remain CMO. They don't do anything else. They change their jobs every 2 years. They become, one CMO to another. They never break into the big league. They become CMOs of sub 100 crore, sub 500 crore companies. But people who become CMOs of a 10,000 crore company, right? Those CMOs typically do around 7 to 8 years of sales. And I said, okay, if that is what it takes, then that's what I'm going to do. And which is why proactively in 2012, I went back as a branch sales manager for Restaurant Maharashtra, MP Chhattisgarh, Goa. It was a dreadfully tough role. I had a very difficult time. However, I still discovered facets of myself. What I learned then, however, was invaluable because I believe leaders or professionals only learn in a bad time. You only grow when you are in a crisis. And there are several leaders who don't have bad times. And those leaders who don't have bad times, who have had maybe a good inning through and through, they never get a chance to reflect, take a step back, and their anomalies, their errors, their hard edges then become encrusted. And they're not able to change that because you only have a motivation to change your outlook in life when you're not doing well, which is why I always tell people, savor a crisis, savor a bad time. Don't ever miss or don't waste a crisis. Don't waste that big bad time because, it's that time when you'll discover a part of your personality. So when I was having my tough times as a sales leader, I developed this meditative technique, which interestingly, I learned recently, is actually mentioned in the Upanishads, right? This is called the Sakshi self or the witness self. The Sakshi self or the witness self is what I started tapping into because when I would swim on the weekends, I would try to look at myself from outside. I would say, you know what, internally I have all this turmoil going on, but what's really going on? How do I see myself from outside? How am I being viewed by others? What is the perception around me? And that technique really became useful for me in the next decade of my career because I learned this art of seeing myself from outside through other people's perceptions and not just through my own view and my own lens. So around that time, one of the things which I ticked off is to say that I need to have a senior role in sales. What else do I need to do? I need to do an innovation head role. And hence I was the innovation head with premium and luxury spirits for Diageo. I need to get global exposure. So I was the marketing head for international business with Britannia. I need to do a strategy role. And hence I was the marketing head for dairy, where essentially I worked on the Laughing Cow and the Britannia cheese combined, the merger and acquisition. I worked on how do you fulfill the requirements for a new line that we are putting up, including an entry into breakthrough categories. So I learned strategy. And when I had covered around 18 years, there's this feeling of deja vu saying that, you know what, I think I've done it all. And I could write a book is the feeling I had. And, it was reflected onto what my boss used to say. There's a guy called Abhishek Sinha, which I reported to. And Abhishek was like, you know what, anything I throw at you, at some point in time, you have done it, right? And that's when I felt I needed a gear shift. I needed to take guard. We've heard this story of Sachin Tendulkar, right? Who, when he hits a century and he's going to hit this 101, he takes guard all over again. And I said, it's a time to take guard. I asked myself, what is it that I have not learned? Right? And I realized I have not learned digital, or at scale, I have not learned digital. I have not learned big data, and big data technology propensity models is something which is the future. I've not learned digital marketing. And hence this job at Vodafone Idea was a fascinating test of my own resilience because I've had a tough time the last 2 years. But I thoroughly enjoyed it, and my learning curve in the last 2 years has been as sharp as it was when I was in campus. And that's the degree of learning that I'm having. And hence, I'm loving this portfolio, right? Because I get to learn something completely different than what I've done for the first 18 years. As I talked about the fact that I did this journey of introspection and reflection, and I believe personal branding or leadership or authenticity at its core gets down to self realization. And hence, if you go through my LinkedIn profile, on my LinkedIn profile, you will find a featured article which says coaching and mentoring what the world needs, right? Which is where I talk about this way of charting out your journey, right? And this is what I had done at 26. In a simple 3x3 grid, I wrote down 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. And I wrote my professional life, personal life, and interests and hobbies. And I said, who am I going to be in 15 years? And this journey is about visualization. This journey is not about mathematics. It's not logic. It's about vision, right? And the vision I set for myself is, can I be a marketing and innovation leader in the FMCG industry? But I'm not going to become a leader in just one facet of my personality. There is professional life, and to do my professional life, like I said, I need to do a brand role, sales role, innovation, international business, and then maybe that is what will make me a marketing head. But what's going to be going on in my personal life, right? I'm gonna get married. I'm gonna have a house, maybe, and kids. I need financial security, and there's a certain even financial target I gave myself, saying that X amount is what I'll probably want to earn at 40. These journeys are not done in isolation, right? So hence, interests and hobbies came in, saying that what do I like to do? I like to read. Maybe I should write, and maybe one day I'll write a book. So I had written down on this piece of paper almost 18 years back that I will write a book, and that is what I've just written, right? And I will tell you more about it. So this visualization, all I want to do is very important, because once you get the vision at 15, then you walk back 5 years and say, if that's who I'm going to be in 15 years, who am I going to be in 10 years? And that gives you clarity. If I'm going to be this in 10 years, who do I be at 5 years, right? And hence, many times when we go wrong in our leadership or our career decisions is because we're thinking about the next job or the next role, right? But what really matters is, in the next 5 years, you need to do what you're going to do to reach where you need to be 15 years down the line. An interesting question, which my father was asked me, right? And this is where, like I said, a lot of the journeys of personal branding will get tied up, because the question that my father once asked me when I was in my, I was in my 11th standard is, why did the Titanic sink? Now, this question for him is relevant because he retired from the Navy as an admiral, right? As he retired from the Navy as an admiral, he says he sees the world as an extension of his job. I mean, that's what we all do, right? We see our life as an extension of our job. And he has been the commanding officer for Virat, right? And he says that below every ship, there are 6 airtight compartments. Even if one airtight compartment does not get burst, the ship cannot sink. So while in the case of the Titanic, they made the metal with the toughest known metal known to man at that point in time, that metal was brittle. And that metal, because it was brittle, not just one compartment broke, all 6 compartments got burst when it hit the iceberg. And hence, what my dad told me was very important, is to say that, like a ship, you need to build a whole life concept. And your whole life concept is the fact that you need to be as in tune with every facet of your life. And you cannot let one facet of your life intersect or impact the other. So in this workshop, which I did when at around 26, right, when I wrote down that 15-year journey, we were given a canvas, right? And you should do this exercise. In a canvas, some paints, a brush, and try to draw what your life is. So that canvas I still have with me. What I drew was essentially this, said that my life essentially has these 4 facets, and each of these are important. There's a red, blue, green, yellow. The red is my family, and that's critical and core for me, but that's not who I am alone. I also have achievements at work. I want to succeed, right? Why not? I want to do well. I want to get awards. I want recognition. But then I also have interests and hobbies beyond my work, which is where the whole green box comes in. I want to write, I want to take time for it, and like I said, this question which always gets asked to me: where do you get the time? Where do you get the time to write? Where do you get the time to teach? Isn't it interfering with your work, right? And that is because I have an isolated fourth chamber, and that fourth chamber is where I can give my 100% there as well as along with the others, because all these four facets are important. And most importantly, my fourth corner is when I chill with my friends. I catch up with people maybe every Friday evening. Why not? And that time is isolated is important, because a lot of my creativity, my inspiration, my fresh thinking, my networking, that happens because I proactively take out the time for it. I realize that each of these four chambers is important, and a professional is not going to succeed by living in one chamber alone. And hence, the best leaders which I have met who bring their whole personality to the office. I mean, I still remember, and I will talk through some of the leaders towards the end, but Sanjay Purohit, right, who was our marketing director, he, I mean, of course, was a genius when it came to creativity, marketing, and how he inspired all of us. But that passion was not restricted to work or marketing alone. He had as much passion for the kebabs in Lucknow as for a trip to Sydney with his family, or to playing golf on the weekends, right? A person who's fundamentally passionate about life is actually able to then deliver the highest amount of passion at his job. A person who works 9 to 12 in office is unlikely to build the sheer amount of passion or creativity needed to cause disruption, right? And hence, disruption, innovation, right? Personal branding, authenticity comes in when you embrace all the four facets of your life. You take time out for them individually, and you don't treat them as parts which you want to keep on the side. You bring all of these to work, frankly. Now, this journey that I took, and we would have all heard of the Ikigai concept, right? So as when I started my journey, as I keep reflecting on this piece, that Ikigai is essentially about an integration of what I love, what the world needs, what I can be paid for, what I'm good at. So when I started my own journey, right, in college is where I only focused on what I love and what the world needs, right? Which is why I wanted to become a physicist, right? I wanted to say that, maybe I will find that next thing that takes humanity forward. But as I went through my journey, I probably increasingly started focusing on the other diameter, what I can be paid for, what I'm good at, right? And of course, that is satisfying. Through my time at Cadbury, the chocolates, I eventually found my way at Diageo in alcohol. And alcohol, again, then became an intersection of what I'm good at, but also what I love. I mean, I love my drink. I love the passion which comes with chasing around, and Diageo, I must give that credit to that company, because Diageo asked me to articulate my personal purpose. And that is brilliant, right? And very few organizations do that. But when I articulated my personal purpose, then I was doing very well at Diageo, I also had this feeling of emptiness. I had this feeling of saying that there's a lot of satisfaction, but there's a feeling of uselessness. Why am I doing all this? I mean, what is so great about getting the world to take another peg or eat some more chocolate, right? And that's when I realized that there is another facet to my life, right, which I need to start uncovering. And this facet was brought alive to me by Simon Sinek's talk. And I would advise all of you to go onto YouTube and find the link for Simon Sinek's talk of Start with a Why. What Simon Sinek says is fascinating, right? He says that our brain is made of the reptilian brain, the mammalian brain, and the neocortex. The neocortex is the how and the why. A neocortex knows language. So it's constantly telling me, I must succeed at work. I need to deliver a brand campaign. I need to ensure that, my pack renewals go up, my ARPU goes up, right? And the how also gets answered. How am I going to do this, right? The how gets answered very well in terms of, am I going to call for a meeting? I'm going to put my teams at task. I'm going to deliver these numbers. The crucial question is, why am I doing this? The why is what is answered by the mammalian brain. The mammalian brain, or the center part of the brain, only speaks in visuals and images, right? Does not know language. So that is what helped me realize that when I had done this journey at the age of 26 and I had crafted my journey till 40, the reason why it worked very well for me is because I could visualize who I want to be. And I realized that I've come a full circle. It's the time to reset that clock once more. That journey of why am I going to be and who am I going to be has taken me thus far. But your personal journey of authenticity and leadership actually starts here again. And then when I did this articulation and I tried to understand who am I, why have I earned whatever success I've earned all these years, I realized that the unique thing about me, and it will be different for you, is that I connect with people. I connect with others to create magic. And that introspection helped me realize that I've always worked in a collective. So when I was solving for Cadbury celebrations, at that point in time, I used to ask all of my partners in office what their dream is. So I would ask the sales guy, what's your dream? And he says, you know what, I wish I could just sell my stock 3 days before Diwali without worrying about write-offs. Or if I ask the procurement guy, what's your dream? And he says, Saurabh, we just waste all these cartons in the middle. I wish we could just replace them with plastic trays. Or I asked the supply chain guy, what's your dream? And he says, I don't understand why we run our lines for only 4 months. We should just put everything into a cold warehouse and we'll double our capacity. And these answers cannot be my answers, right? These are somebody else's answers. So my success has not come through my ideas. My success has come by connecting people in isolation. And hence I realized my journey of finding my true self, my authentic self, is also going to start here. Is going to come through connections. Is going to come by reaching out to a large mass of humanity and allowing good karma to show me the route, right? And at the core, the person that I am is that I connect with others to create magic. But where am I going to lead to? Who am I going to be, right? And again, that whole 3x3 grid helped me again. So I said, counters need to be reset. I am already a marketing leader. What next? Maybe I need to, in my professional life, understand a new category, which is why I'm in Vodafone. I am feeling fairly financially strong. And like I said, I've just written a book. But what is all of this leading towards? Why am I doing all this? And again, when I went back to Google and I started searching names on LinkedIn and YouTube, saying that at 60, who do I want to be? And names like Seth Godin, Simon Sinek, these are names that jumped out for me. And then the question that I asked myself is, can I set a large vision again for myself? And can I be the most famous marketeer of this generation? And that's the question that I asked myself. And that was my vision. So I said, if I need to be that person, and now that's a new task. It's not going to be a lateral journey. It's not about doing well just in my day job. I need to do more. So if I have to be the most famous marketeer of this generation, I need to leave a legacy. I need to maybe enter academics at some time. Maybe I need to do research. Maybe I need to find that one new idea that I can leave mankind with. And to do all of that, if I take 5 years back or take a step back, I need to be leading an organization. Maybe I need to, of course, I'll be sending my kids to college and that part of my personal life obviously will remain very, very important for me. Maybe I start speaking far more like I'm doing now, right? And maybe that's why I've written a book. Maybe that's why I am trying to uncover new categories. So it always is future backwards. You cannot find your personal purpose by saying, today I'm going to inspire people, right? You need to go in the future and then come back saying that, but who am I leading on to be, right? And can you visualize that person you're going to be? And for me, what I realized, the shift I needed to make in unleashing my personal purpose is to say that so far I've been driving myself through achievement orientation, through position, designation, remuneration, recognition, and rewards. But there's another facet to my life. There's a yin and a yang, right? And it's maybe now is the time to start shifting gears towards a contribution orientation. And when I start asking myself, sure, I am doing good achievements for myself, but what am I contributing to others, right? And through this contribution orientation is where your leadership journey starts off, right? You start reflecting more. You start sharing your learnings, and that's where satisfaction kicks in. And hence, often at the core of your personal branding is not show off. It's not about showing off who you are. It's about sharing. It's about genuinely contributing to other people, because people who enter the LinkedIn game by saying that, you know what, I'm going to talk about how great I am, they lose steam. They don't get those likes, shares. Nobody really follows them, because finally that journey is really a journey of about satisfaction in contributing to other people, right? Hence, as understand yourself, as you find a lot more about your leadership journey, right? What happens then next is that you start viewing who are those people who are looking up to you, right? And that's when a certain degree of introspection and reflection sort of comes in, right? As I said, the Sakshi self tells you about who, and all our life we have been focused on who inspires you. We wanted to impress people, right? We said, I want the senior leaders who know who I am, right? And that somewhere becomes your communication target group, right? That's whom you want to communicate yourself to. But you must understand, in your personal leadership journey, there is a consumption target group, right? There's a communication target group and there's a consumption target group. It's the same with brands, right? Brands have a notional consumer, right? So, for example, Pepsi is in their mind wanting to appeal themselves to that youth brigade, right? To the most aspirational youth. But they're consumed by a whole mass of humanity, including somebody at 55 who wants to feel young, right? And similarly, you need to break this apart, saying that I want to communicate my personal purpose or my personal brand to people who inspire me. But I need to understand who is inspired by me, and that's my communication target group. And when I understand who is inspired by me, I create content for them, right? That's whom I talk to, and that's who actually matters. And when you are able to understand who is inspired by you, that's where you actually unleash your passion. That's where you actually unleash what you are good at, what you really want to share with people, your journeys, your stories, your ability to do marketing or anything else, right? That spreads your influence. And that spreads your influence not among the senior leaders of the industry necessarily, right? But among the cohort who is inspired by you. And that journey allows you to, for example, in my case, write articles, mentor people, share your stories in forums. Maybe you even start mentoring a startup. Right? All of this allows you to then foster diversity. And I talked to you about the whole life concept, right? The fact that I am also a father, and I love my sons and my wife. I am also, somebody who likes to read and talk in forums or talk about marketing or about culture. I am also a person who likes to talk to different people, right? And that brings my whole personality to work. So the finest leaders that I've seen actually put pictures in their room of, say, what they like to do. They like to do birding or bird watching, right? They put pictures of their snaps of, wildlife that they have seen, right? People who are passionate about something completely different or diverse, they put it up in their workspaces, right? And that allows your team members to feel confident. I mean, in my case, when I wrote my book, which I've just recently released called The Practical Marketeer, my boss cut a cupcake in the office. Yeah. He allowed me to feel confident that he is happy with me bringing my personality to work. And hence, when you as a leader bring your personality to work, you give a strong signal to all of your team members that I am not seeing you just as a professional or just as what you can deliver for me, but I am appreciating you as a whole person, as a person who also has creative interests, as a person who also has a personality that brings color to this office, right? And makes this a real live place of work, right? Now that allows you to enhance the happiness quotient of your employees, because your employees will feel happy with, say, of course, the money that they earn, will feel happy with the career goals that you are able to help them accomplish. But they also feel happy when they are in a workplace that they really care about, right? I mean, we all have heard these stories of Google where, Google, set up these spaces for people to play. But you may not be having all that luxury, but yeah, you can order some samosa and chai once in a while, can't you? Right? You could call for a potluck where all the employees in the boardroom bring food together and you guys eat together. You could, take out, a time once a quarter where you all go out there and drink together, right? You show to your employees and you demonstrate that I am in this for the long haul. I am not just having a transactional relationship with you. I'm genuinely interested in who you are. I'm interested in your family. I'm interested in your personality. I'm interested in what drives you. And only then you actually build a workplace which really fosters and thrives, right? And where people want to come to work and contribute, bring that discretionary effort, not just because they will earn more money or because they can get a raise or a promotion, but because they're appreciated and loved for who they are, right? And how they contribute to the organization. This entire piece, right, hence helps you as a leader to start blossoming, because then not only do you bring a lot more of your personality to work, you are also able to appreciate your team beyond the norm for what makes them tick and what they really care about, and not just only the professional success. Of course, professional success is important, but employees and team members realize that there is more to it. And that also gives you the joy of sharing your story. And believe you me, organizational cultures are not built only on professional or number success alone, right? They are built, and organizational winning cultures are crafted where leaders share their authentic stories, right? I still remember when I joined Wipro Consumer Care, and I had Vineet Agarwal, right, VA, talking about his stories as a management trainee. He is the CEO of the organization. But those stories that he shared actually led an inedible impact on me, because I understood what is the basis of decision making in an organization. And believe you me, this is critical, because you cannot be everywhere. I mean, if you are an organization which has got, say, 2,000 employees or 8,500 employees or even 500 employees, you cannot be making everybody's decisions, right? All of those 500 people need to make their decisions, and they need to make those decisions every single day. And the faster the decisions they make, the more agile they are, and that's when you beat competition. But how do you create a culture that allows people to have confidence in their ability to make the right decisions? You share that confidence by sharing your stories, by perpetuating the myths and legends which make up an organization, because those myths and legends are codified into a pattern of behavior that organization culture is about. Once upon a time, religious leaders did this, right? The Ramayana and the Mahabharata essentially are codes of behavior. Organization cultures, much like a Ramayana or a Mahabharata, are codes of behaviors. These codes of behaviors which enable decision making, which enable choice making, are based on your personal stories, your leadership lessons. So share your story within your organization and without. The more you share your stories, the more you empower seamless communication and decision making. And hence, these reflections have allowed me to have the confidence to have genuine conversations. They have helped me build meaningful friendships. They also allow me to share my unfiltered views. And I often say that communities, like the way I have built mine, I have a follower count of around 44,000 followers on LinkedIn, is based on responses and not on posts. And hence, I always say, do little, but whatever little you are doing, you do it with authenticity, right? So if I am putting out a post out there on LinkedIn, I'm genuinely interested in that conversation. I'm not putting out that post for the sake of it, for the joy of seeing it go viral. I put out the post because I'm wanting to meaningfully engage, right? And engaging with your employees is where the difference comes in, right? And hence, Jack Welch once talked about management by walking around. And that's exactly the same thing that I practice, because, I say it's not enough for a leader to have his door open. the leader has to be able to walk out of the door, talk to the very last person on the line. And that's where an engagement or a communication happens. And that's when great personal brands of leaders is built. And I will share that with a few stories as well. So this journey, like I said, has given me influence, has given me recognition, has given me perspective. It also has allowed me to unleash my passions. Obviously, has also allowed me to articulate my journey. Now, Bharat Puri. Bharat Puri is today the CEO, global CEO for Pidilite. He has been the number 2 in Mondelez, $40 billion company. He has been the MD for Cadbury's 20 years back. The fascinating thing about Bharat Puri is that he never forgets a face or an individual. It could be a sales officer. It could be anybody else. But Bharat Puri, and let me demonstrate this. So I had joined Cadbury's in 2005, September. 2005 November, Bharat Puri was having his farewell. I had never interacted with him. I mean, I joined the organization. I was shifted out to Vijayawada, where I was an ASM. And Bharat Puri was having his farewell in that November. So the first interaction for 30 seconds is when I had with Bharat Puri, because he shook my hand on his farewell. And when he shook my hand, he says, "Saurabh, how's Vijayawada? And, have you had biryani at the street corner? Because, I've traveled to Vijayawada quite a bit. And you know what? Vijayawada has had a twisted history of, 1 year up, 1 year down. And I'm sure that you'll make a difference." Few words, but I was stunned by saying, how does the MD of this organization know somebody who, as virtually as a management trainee, has just joined the organization 2 months back? I then met Bharat Puri again after 7 years, and he had been all across the world. He had been in Singapore, he had been in Zurich for many years, he had been leading the developing countries. So he was traveling to 40 countries in a year. And when he visited India for that, day and a half, and he took us all out for dinner, over dinner, again, he reached out to me as if he has met me every day of his life for the last 7 years. And that morning, he had breakfast with Sunil Gavaskar. The day earlier, he had lunch with the mayor of London. And that man who walks in these circles knew every individual so closely and passionately only because he cares about people. And that's the whole self I was talking about. But at that point in time, what was Anand Kripalu doing? Again, he's obviously the finest leader I've worked with. I've been able to work under his leadership for 10 years. And I've just put out a post yesterday about, my learnings from Anand Kripalu. Now, that same November, when Bharat Puri was exiting, Anand Kripalu was joining. It was his first day in the Chennai office. And all of the all of the team in Chennai was in Bharat Puri's farewell. And where was Anand Kripalu? Where was Anand Kripalu? Because the entire office, the ASMs, the BSMs, the BM, everybody's sitting in office in Chennai, right? In the conference hall. Anand Kripalu was not there in the first half. He joined us in the second half. In the first half, he was in the market. He was doing the market visit with a salesman, the MD of a new company. I mean, with all the insecurities he might have, right? I mean, doesn't know the category, may not know the people. With all of that, he's doing the market alone with a salesman. And that's the man that Anand Kripalu is. He always believed in middle-class values, right? He believed use the company's money the way you use your own money, right? And he articulated the strategy of Cadbury so beautifully in a simple Excel sheet. And that Excel sheet had, say, 7 or 8 rows. And every year for 8 years, he reviewed himself every quarter in the same scorecard. How many leaders are willing to expose themselves in front of the entire organization and say, this is how not you are doing, this is how I am doing. This is my red, green, amber. And that simple act across the entire organization made a singularity of purpose, helped us all understand what the organizational strategy is, right? And that entire team, hence, grew at 25% every year for 8 years. So I joined a sub-1,000 crore organization. Anand Kripalu had put a clear vision that in the next 8 years, I want to move this organization from a small organization to a mid-sized organization, which is an organization above the size of 5,000 crores. And when he exited Cadbury's in those 8 years' time, he left a 6,000 crore organization, right? So he delivered his vision because of the simplicity of his communication and the simplicity of who he is. But when it comes to simplicity, you cannot take it away from Varun Berry. Varun Berry, of course, was my managing director at Britannia. And when all of the FMCG industry was in turmoil, right? When everybody was going through the rockiest phase possible in the pandemic, when everything was shut down, that is the time when Britannia saw its highest share increase. Market, when I say share increase, I say the share value increase, right? Shareholder value. And how did Varun Berry achieve that? Varun said, very simple, guys. Okay, we are stuck at home. We can't go out. And I don't want you guys to go out because it's not safe for you. But we need to talk to our extended family. And extended family are our retailers. So as a marketing team, he just shared with us all the phone numbers of retailers. And our market visit every day was calling 20 retailers every day and understanding, are they getting their stock, what lines are moving, how they're feeling, and the fact that Britannia is with you, right? That simple act made Britannia one of the most successful companies through the pandemic. And of course, my current leader is Avnish Khosla, right? An extremely tough man, but an extremely fair man. And that's what I love about Avnish, right? Saying that he will be extremely tough, ruthless, what he needs to be for telecom. But how he's able to foster all of us and give us the space to succeed. And what I find fascinating about Avnish is that of his 7 direct reports, he's got the entire range. So at one end is me and Shabnam, who handle prepaid and postpaid, rank industry outsiders. On the other hand, say an Arun and Nitin, hardcore industry insiders. In the center, you have Shirupa and Sanjeev, again, experts of the industry, but they do things with an external lens. So enabling diversity and allowing people with absolutely diverse interests and passions is what makes Avnish succeed so many years in such a tough circumstance. And of course, Gunjan is currently the CEO of Bata. And what I loved about Gunjan is his belief in propping up the underdog. Gunjan is one leader, again, in Britannia as well as in Bata. I have never ever seen him, and he's again a very tough man. I mean, he is a tough character. He's been a sales leader. He drives himself hard. He drives his teams hard, right? But he always roots for the underdog. And he will always look at that guy on the edge of the room and say, you know what? That guy is probably struggling, but he's got the right intention. How can I help him? How can you guys help him? And because if you can help the weakest link in your organization thrive and strive, you will have the strongest organization you can build because all of the caddies are performing, right? And hence, this is what I wanted to share in terms of the fact that all of these leaders, essentially, because they are able to lead with authenticity, bring their own personalities at work, is what allows them to create purposeful organizations because they lead by their own personal purpose. All of this, like I said, as I mentioned, led me in my journey of interaction, building this community to really craft this book called The Practical Marketeer, which I also wanted to share is the way I had crafted my purpose, right? So what I had said is I create magic by connecting with others. And that's exactly what I did in this book. And it's just a short story which I would like to share. What I essentially did is I started putting out posts. Then I gave some 40 to 50 talks at campuses. The first talk that I gave at IIM Shillong was The Practical Marketeer, which is essentially the gap between what industry delivers and what is taught in B schools. So as I started giving those talks, I made friends with college faculty. I started writing articles. I wrote articles on this portal called Case Reads. And finally, there was a friend of mine called Uday from Mensa who wanted me to come on his podcast. He says, Saurabh, just share with me all your material. I shared my material with him and I shared everything that I had written with another close friend called Rajesh Srinivasan, who I met on LinkedIn. Rajesh Srinivasan pulled out the book from my writings. On my own, I could have never written the book. I was just writing articles and I was giving talks. The 2x2, putting it together, and on an Excel sheet, Rajesh calls me and says, Saurabh, you have already written 14,000 words out of a book of 40,000 words. And this on the Excel sheet is what those chapters can look like. And I was fascinated, right? Is the power of maybe good karma or all of it coming together. And I always realized that for me, anything that I want to achieve, whether it is writing a book or anything else, is never going to be a singular endeavor. It's going to be a collective endeavor of bringing people, ideas, and thoughts together. And that, like I said, is what I said. Knowing who you are, knowing your personal purpose, living with purpose, and hence bringing your whole self to work, which I believe is, if you're able to crack, is really your journey of your personal branding and authenticity. So I think that's broadly what I wanted to talk about. So now I would like you to share your feedback. We'll take a few seconds for the feedback, and then we can obviously get into the Q&A. I'm more than happy to give you the answers. Again, what I would like you to do, and you will all be getting a certificate for attending this session. When you get the certificate, I would request you to share it on LinkedIn and tag Juno School on your posts. Also tag me, Saurabh Bajaj. Again, you can connect to us on hello@junoschool.org. These are the various portals in which I would want you guys to follow the Juno School. Yeah, that's about it from my end. See, as an aspiring leader, as I mentioned, it's very critical to find the end goal first. And some of the things which I do in a lot of my mentorship sessions, I take phone calls from people who are interested in having a conversation on, say, a weekday evening between 6:30 and 7 or morning 8 to 9, where I'm also able to talk through people. Now, the first thing to do is go onto YouTube, go through the talk which I talked about on Start with the Why. It is by Simon Sinek, one of the most viewed TED Talks ever. It's got some 40,000 views, right? So feel free to go through the TED Talk, right? That will give you a lot more clarity as to why you want to be a leader and what are you going to be leading in. Once you have seen the TED Talk of Start with the Why, then maybe take out some time on a Saturday afternoon, spend some time with yourself, try to visualize whom do you want to be like. To start your journey, you need to be able to see the end. See, if you need to travel anywhere, right, on an Ola or an Uber, you can't just call it Ola, Uber and say, chalo chalte hain, right? You need to put in the end destination. So put in the end destination first. Put your khamba on what is that aspirational leader you want to be? Who will you be, right? And that's the 3x3 grid that I talked about. As you can visualize yourself 15 years down the line, and you articulate that in my professional life, this is what I want to achieve. In my personal, this is what I want to achieve. And my interests and hobbies, this is what I will do. And then, like I said, take steps back, 5 years. And that's where you will then be able to get the tickle point to your journey. Guys, do fill in your feedback. That really helps us. Thank you for having been a great audience. I hope you have enjoyed the conversation.